Hey guys, it's your boy Mark, and it's time for another gear review. Alright y'all, if you guys joined me in my studio tour video from a couple months ago, I made a mention of doing an in-depth gear review of my bass guitar, and that's what we're doing today. I got this Squier Affinity Series PJ bass back in December, close to Christmas time. My wife actually picked this out for me because she's awesome, and I got it on a deal with a gig bag for about $220. So let's cut to the chase. What is there to be said about the Squier Affinity Series PJ bass? Let's start with the features and the controls here. This is the master tone knob for both pickups. This one is the volume for the bridge, which is the jazz pickup. And this one here is the volume for the precision pickup. This is a solid alder body with a maple neck and an Indian laurel fretboard, which is actually surprisingly comfortable. It actually feels and plays like rosewood, which is really good, especially for me because I'm used to playing rosewood fretboards on guitar. Fretboards, not fretbirds. But yeah, fretboards on guitars. So this feels and plays exactly like it. As I've mentioned before, I've said this is the best guitar for any occasion, and that's because of the pickups. So we're going to start with the jazz pickup cranked, and I've also got the tone. I usually keep my tone on max always. Alright, so this bass is tuned to drop D. For most of you that have known me for a long time, know this is kind of an odd thing for me because drop tunings usually throw me off, with the top string being 2 frets lower than the rest of the guitar. But I've been experimenting with it lately, and I've just spawned a lot of new creativity off of it, so it's working out rather well. So I've got this guitar tuned, not tuned, but plugged into my MXR Bass DI Plus, which we'll get into that later. You can't see it, but that's the preamp that I use. And I've got it running through my PreSonus Audio Box i2, and I've got a session opened in Studio One. And for complete transparency, there are no mix or master effects on the bus. This is just the bass guitar itself. So let's click record. Because in my previous video from back in January of the gear demo I did on this, you really couldn't hear the bass. So we're going to use the audio from Studio One from today's session, so you guys can hear exactly what this bass can do. All right, let's get started. This is the jazz pickup. I'm not a super huge fan of this on its own because there's not a lot of low end. It's really wiry, which is why I said in the studio video that I made a couple months ago, if you haven't checked it, I'll put a link down below so you guys can watch it. It's really cool. But it's wiry, kind of thin sounding. I wouldn't use this on my own just the way it is, on its own just the way it is, because of how thin it is. So that's why I made a mention of potentially in the future getting upgraded pickups for this thing. Probably bass lines by Seymour Duncan because I'm a long time Seymour Duncan user. Nothing wrong with any competitive brands. My home is with Seymour Duncan. Anyway, enough of me talking. This is the jazz pickup. And I'm a pick player, not because I'm a guitarist turned bassist out of necessity, but because all my favorite bass players play with a pick. People like Phil Lynott, Peter Baltus, formerly of Accept, Jeff Pilson of Foreigner and Dawkins. So that's the kind of sound that I expect to hear, whenever I play my music. That's the sound that I want. Alright, so let's go to the precision pickup, and this is usually the pickup I play on most of the time because of its thundering sound. It is the sound of rock and metal, if you ask me. And you're going to notice a big difference in output and tone. So that is huge sounding, and that's out of the box. Again, no upgrades, no aftermarket pickups or anything like that. That is just the bass on its own, and it's amazing. I didn't expect for a budget, bass like that to have such a punchy sound like off the bat. That sounds really huge. So again, like I was saying in my video about the Les Paul, the Epiphone Les Paul, and people knocking you for not using Gibson. This is the same thing. Squier's an affordable Fender, basically. And it's not always so much about what you pay for an instrument, but the tone in your hands and how you use it. Alright, so let's get into the blend side of things, which is usually what I do when I approach a song with a lot of natural low end from the guitar. What I'll do is, or in drop tunings like this, I always use a blend. What I will do is I will roll back my precision bass pickup just a little bit. I'll probably still be around 3/4 because you don't want to lose the boom, but you want to have clarity, because the last thing you want as a bass player is to mud out. Like if your guitar's already had a lot of low end, you don't want to continue to add low frequency because you're not going to be heard clearly. So what I'll do is I will take the precision pickup, roll it back to about 3/4, and then probably go about halfway with my jazz pickup, and there's going to be a big difference there. So you can cut through the mix without sounding like, a muffled vacuum cleaner. You don't want to be that in the background as a bass player. You want to be heard, and a very clear and a very audible working bass line is so important to a mix. It'll even make your guitars sound better if you have great bass. Without bass, there's no mix. So I'm going to try this blend so you can hear it. I should have really used a compressor, but I didn't. So I just wanted you to hear what the raw sound is. And yeah, I tend to go 8 when I play bass, but I mean, that's just what it is. But that's just a raw sound, and you don't really lose too much of that thunder, So you get the thunder and you get the clarity. You'll be projecting over the bass in the mix if you kind of use something like this. So if you haven't heard my music, please do. It's all here on YouTube, or you can download and listen to it, stream it for free on Reverb Nation. Again, this is the only bass that I use on the entire record or on any of my recordings, and you're going to hear this bass used in various settings. Again, this is honestly a steal for the amount that you get out of this bass, and it's so versatile and it sounds good out of the box. But yeah, that's it for the Squier Affinity series PJ bass. I love it to death. Everything is stock. The pickups, even the strings are the same, so I'm probably going to need to replace the strings before I decide to record music again. And it was strung standard with the Dario MYXL, I believe, light gauge strings. But yeah, so this is a lot of bass, y'all. And again, check out some of the songs that I've written. Bass is huge, and a lot of work goes into those bass lines. And again, for all you bass players, the next couple videos that I make will be centered around bass guitar, more about the MXR Bass DI Plus. And then there's another toy that I have that I just recently acquired that I think you guys would love. I've tried it out and I do love it. So stay tuned for my next couple videos when they come out. This has been Mark. You've been great. Have a great weekend. I'll see y'all again very soon. Bye-bye.